Hello Idle Hero fans, thank you for joining me today for my first video in a long time, and for this one we're going to be talking about Groo. Alright, so I'm going to start off this video by thanking Jay Wiz for that awesome introduction video that he made for me. If you guys are looking for any graphics done for Twitter or your Twitch channel or YouTube channel, check him out. He has a selfie or selfie website where you can look at a free template to see if you're interested in his content, and then you can purchase his content depending on what you need at very good prices. The link will be in the description below. So I want to say sorry for having such a long hiatus from YouTube. I've been pretty much focused on making a lot of Twitter content, or Twitch content, sorry, and it's kind of eaten up a lot more time than I expected it to. I, of course, still want to stick with YouTube content as well, because I feel I can be more informative about it, and specifically videos like this. So let's just cut to the chase and get to the heart of this video, which is Groo. And he's a hero that's kind of changed over the past month or two. He's been subjected to a nerf, and as well, I feel the meta has kind of evolved around him a little bit. He still is probably the best warrior for straight up tanking damage. Now, there's a new hero that recently came out who's also a warrior, but we don't really have a lot of data on him yet. As far as it seems, he's better off as a DPS unit than a tanking unit, so I think it's still pretty safe to say that Groo is the best tanking warrior. But of course, that might change slightly in the future, depending on how the new hero develops. But at the time of making this video, it's a safe bet to say Groo is the best tanking unit in the game. And a lot of that comes down to his abilities, of course, because as we know, HP and armor themselves are not the greatest for actually stopping damage. HP is very minor considering how much damage gets done in this game, and armor just doesn't have a very good effect on negating damage, because it's not like a game like League of Legends, for example, where you get a percent-based damage reduction based on armor. Or if it is that way, it's a very, very small percent. But it seems to be more along the lines of having, say, 938 armor reduces a flat amount of damage. Now, whether or not it's 938, it probably isn't, but it's probably some sort of multiplier attached to that, where it's like the level of the unit multiplied by 938 divided by something, or just there's some sort of a formula that leads to whatever damage reduction is given, and that number is not very favorable. It ends up being in such a way that armor is very moot in this game. But what isn't is this ability right here, and that's Gloo's Tenacity. And I don't know why it's called Glue. I don't get that myself, but maybe I'm missing some sort of joke, or maybe it's a poor translation. I don't know what it is. But basically what it does is it increases his HP by 32%, which is, again, negligible because that's already added on to his base stats that you see here, the 900,000. That includes the 32%. But the reduced damage by 20% is a big deal. And that's where his tankiness really comes from, is that 20% reduced damage, plus the fact that there is an artifact called Oak's Heart, if I'm not mistaken, that not only gives him a significant boost in HP, but also gives him a damage reduction as well on top of this. I think it's like 14% perhaps, or something of that nature, and what that leads him to having between 30 and 40% damage reduction just right off the top. And that right there is so much better than what armor is going to do for you. So that is what makes him innately tanky. Now, he has a few other things going for him, of course. His primary ability deals 145% damage to frontline units, so that's not amazing, but it's damage. But it also steals 28% of their armor. And that, again, like, armor is not a huge deal, but it's just another small source of tankiness that he gets from his ability. And plus, the stealing is the beautiful part. Not only is he gaining that armor, but he's taking it away from someone else, which means your team will be doing a little bit extra damage, and he'll be taking a little less extra damage. So, as I've said before, armor is not amazing, but those two things working together, the damage reduction plus his stealing of armor, is a very nice little combo. His second ability is that when he's attacked, he reduces crit by 10%. And if you remember or if you've seen any of the comments I've made about why Abyss heroes happen to be pretty good tanks, like Balrog and Queen, for example, the main reason for that is because they reduce crit, and Groo does that as well. Reducing crit is amazing because a lot of heroes like Demon Hunter, for example, and Flame Strike and Aiden, these guys do most of their damage when they crit. Now, I know Aiden doesn't have crit naturally in his build, but he gets it from the guild tree, and this takes a big chunk out of that, especially with mages, because mages are going to hit the front unit every time, and they're going to lose a chunk of their crit right off the bat. So that, again, that's not only reducing damage to him, but that's reducing damage to your whole team. So he not only makes himself tankier, but he makes your whole team a little bit tankier with this. And his last ability is counterattack. And this is where his damage actually starts to rack up a little bit. Now, I think it goes up to 60% chance to counterattack at level when he hits 9-star, but the 150% attack damage is pretty high. Like, he only has like 6,100 base, so he's probably only going to have like 15,000 at level 9, probably something like that. But that plus 150%, you're looking at close to like 22,000, 23,000 damage every time he counterattacks, and that's a nice chunk of damage. Unless, of course, you're hitting Flame Strike, who has 1 billion HP anyway. But for when you're fighting against most heroes, taking a nice little chunk like 23,000 damage is a nice little boost from a warrior. So that's where it kind of helps him out on the damage front. Now, earlier I said that he got a nerf, and I'm pretty sure that was around his damage reduction. I think his damage reduction before was like 23 to 24% or something like that. So his damage reduction took a little bit of a hit, but honestly, the damage reduction is still really effective. I don't think it was the nerf that really kind of pushed him off of my like top tier list. What happened with him is kind of the fact that you're seeing a lot more rangers and things like that becoming tanks. And what that means is that, for example, you can have a Queen as your tank, the red Abyss hero, Queen, and that means you can still have another forest hero on your team and still maintain your Rainbow Faction bonus. And the Rainbow Faction bonus is very powerful in the late game. That's what most teams are doing, and that's where you get an extra free 10% HP and 10% attack. And the problem with having Groo on your team is that it stops you from having amazing heroes like Rosa or Demon Hunter. Now, those two heroes are definitely better than Groo on a team. But if you have Groo on your team as your tank, you can't really afford to have another forest unit if you want the Rainbow Faction. So that's where it starts to become a problem, where even though Groo is definitely more tanky than Queen, Queen is tanky enough while still being a part of Abyss. And Abyss is kind of a terrible faction right now, except for maybe the case of the new hero. The new hero seems very strong, go figure, but we're not sure how strong just yet. So, but before this video has been made, up until now, it's been pretty much the fact that Abyss is the weakest group. So if you can have your tank from Abyss, that makes you able to have a strong unit from Forest, from a Fortress, from Death Faction, as well as Evil and Holy. And that's amazing. And I would even go so far as to say that Asmodel is probably a better tank than Groo. Now, Asmodel is not going to tank as much damage because he doesn't have that absurd damage reduction. He does have insane HP, but he doesn't quite have the same lasting power that Groo does. However, you have to have a light hero, and you only have two options. You only have Gurk, and you only have Asmodel. And Asmodel's going to win out that trade every time if you have a choice. So if you can have Asmodel on your team, and say, for example, you want Kareem instead of Queen, or maybe now you want the new Beria, however you pronounce his name, on your team, but not as a tank because he's primarily a damage dealer, then perhaps you look at having someone like Asmodel as your tank, because even though he is mostly used as a DPS, he still does have very high base HP. And that's going back to the same thing as I said about Queen before. Having him as your tank will allow you to have a full roster of damage dealers, as well as himself being a damage dealer and a tank. So I feel that's where Groo is kind of falling off a little bit. He's mostly a pure tank. He does some good damage, but he's not doing damage like Asmodel is doing damage, or like Demon Hunter is doing damage. And he's not having as big of an impact for your team as Rosa would, for example, with his ability. But he's still the best damage soaker in the game. So it's not like a terrible idea to have him on your team, But if you want to have, say, an optimal situation come in the late game when you have all 9 stars and you're looking to be as powerful as you can with your PvP side of things, a Groo might not be the best option. So, that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. It's been a little bit too long, as I said before at the beginning of this video, since I've done a video on YouTube. I'm going to try to get more active with that again, as I would like to keep moving forward with that. I just hit 2,000 subscribers today, so I want to say thank you guys so much for that. I am going to do another kind of an update, follow-up video for 2,500 subscribers, like I did similar to the 1K subscriber video, but I'm going to leave that alone for now and wait till that time comes. But I want to say thanks again to you guys for supporting me so much. It's been amazing. And again, big shout out to Jay Wiz too for all the graphics and stuff that he done. Like, that intro was amazing, and he has helped me out with so much stuff with the Twitch stream. So please, if you guys want to join me on that Twitch stream, you can follow me at twitch.tv/SurriSama. And as well, there's a Discord channel I recently put out that you guys can join in, and that'll let you know whenever I'm doing any streams or any type of content creation. I'll post it there as soon as it's done. So be sure to check it out. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, and have a good night.